love this place!
Well, how are you guys doing? I hope you're having a great day, great night, depending on where you're at. I was not planning on doing a video today, but some breaking news. It's actually not news, it's more of a rumor. So I'm going to give the official Doomcock disclaimer. This is a rumor. Take it with a grain of salt, etc., etc. I think I've told many of you that I have a couple of sources inside Wizards of the Coast. And one of them reached out to me and said, hey, you may want to hear this. This is the current scuttlebutt. And it involves kind of a crossover with video games. So without further ado, I'm going to go into it, and I'll come back at the end and give you the juicy, juicy rumor. Okay, well, I'm sure most of you recognize this. Dragon Age Veilguard. That was a PS5 game that was released towards the end of 2024 to catastrophic results. And we will look at one little snippet of the game that kind of summarized everything wrong with it. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but it never ceases to bring a chuckle to these lips. So without further ado, let's watch some unintentional humor.
Pounding that snake's nose. She's still holding the ruby in her other hand. Maker's panties. I was so proud.
Oh,
Ah, shit. They're still holding it. Sorry.
what are you doing?
Pulling a barb.
Oh, okay. A barb?
Tradition in the Lords of Fortune from one of our old members, Barv. Good guy, but like most of us, his plans went sideways a lot. Bad blood among your crews, not good for morale, but there's not always time for big, drawn-out apologies. So, when one of us screws up and we know we've screwed up, we do a quick 10 to put it right. Pulling a barb.
I'm glad the Lords of Fortune have Tarsh's back.
Oh, Tarsh isn't the first non-binary member of the Lords.
Really?
It was a little before your time, but Horlicks was one of ours.
Huh.
Bastard looked better than I did in a dress or pants.
Well, there you go. That is the clip that was circulating around and summarizes everything you would need to know about this game. Fortunately, a lot of people saw this before they made the mistake of purchasing this game. I've heard it was terrible, and the sales reflected that. All right, so let's dig a little bit deeper into that, because that is going to dovetail in to my big scoop. So this is Corinne Busche. This is their Blue Sky social account. As you can tell, Corinne is a man baby who's LARPing at being a woman. Why do we bring Corinne up? Because Corinne was given the game director title for Dragon Age Veilguard, which means that the responsibility for the catastrophe fell on his shoulders. And you wonder how he even got such a plush job with only really one game designer credit before. May have had something to do with identity and representation, perhaps. But the fallout from the Dragon Age Veilguard catastrophe is only now being felt. The main credited writing team is now no longer working at BioWare. At Torch Games, a very good follow on Twitter, said this, that the guy who directed Dragon Age Veilguard, Wokefest, desperate to push trans agenda, is apparently leaving BioWare. And now we have from Mark Kern, aka Grums, who was getting his scoop stolen from the legacy media. He had reported that BioWare is actually down now to less than 100 people from his internal sources. And I would say he has probably pretty good sources given his history in the gaming industry. That game destroyed a studio. And if they ever recover, it will be years. But we probably should not have too much sympathy here. As Grums also reported, former Dragon Age Veilguard game director Corinne Busche supports the transing of kids. Of course he does. This is from Corinne Busche on Blue Sky Social. I wish everyone against puberty blockers for trans youth would experience the pain we often endure. Your face peeled back to reshape your skull, tissue removed, etc. Hundreds of hours of electrolysis, trauma. But I can't wish this. I'm not a monster. I wish you access to empathy. We don't want our kids butchered, Corinne. It's as simple as that. What you do when you're an adult is your own business. But leave the kids alone. So I already know what your question is. What does this have to do with D&D? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with the tabletop portion of D&D, but it has something to do with Wizards of the Coast in general. And again, I'm going to reiterate, what you're about to hear is a rumor. It may be true. It may not be true. But a couple of sources inside Wizards of the Coast have told me that Corinne Busche, the person who apparently is in love with transing kids and who is responsible for the Dragon Age Veilguard disaster, has been hired by Skeleton Key Studios, a video game studio, I believe, in Austin, Texas. Why is that news? Well, there is a rumor that Skeleton Key Studios is working on an official D&D video game. That's right. The person responsible for Dragon Age Veilguard, the catastrophe, the absolute disaster, the Titanic, is now going to be employed, maybe in a roundabout way, by Wizards of the Coast to help destroy D&D just a little bit further. So I would put this, as far as rumors go, in the very believable column, because we all know the way Wizards of the Coast operates these days. They really don't care what kind of people are associated with their brand. There are folks like this inside Wizards of the Coast working on the tabletop portion too. But this may get a little bit more heat and visibility, only because video games are, so much bigger than tabletop games. So we'll see if it comes true. If you do hear out there that one day Corinne Busche has been hired by Skeleton Key, and then Skeleton Key is working on a D&D video game, well, there you have it. I think we'll probably have more fodder for our live streams and our YouTube careers when that D&D game ever comes to light. Because if it's anything like Dragon Age Veilguard, it will be glorious. Well, that's all I have for you. Again, this is just a little bit of breaking news, so I want to get this out as soon as possible. Again, I reiterate, just a rumor. But the sources that I have inside Wizards of the Coast, they're pretty dependable. So if they're hearing something, there must be at least a little bit of smoke. So we'll see. Anyway, that's all. I hope you guys have a great, great rest of your day. And until we talk again, peace.
Crud Forge makes two great games that aren't afraid to poke a little fun at the people who, quite frankly, need a little fun poked at them. First is the quick and hilarious Virtue Signal, the game where you play a social justice warrior trying to attract followers to your cause before the other players can tear you down. Then there's the mammoth Portland Occupied Zone, or POZ. In this strategy game, you play as a complete disaster of a human being, trying to reshape Portland into a slacker Marxist utopia. Bring a few friends and warm up that throwing arm for some Molotov cocktails.